with the outstanding compensation for fishermen or persons affected by the oil spill. And the question asks, how did the THA assess the liability to the fishermen? And I'd like to lay on record that the Executive Council established a Tobago Oil Spill Relief Committee under the Division of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment, and Sustainable Development tasked with the responsibility for assessing and evaluating the extent of the damage to the fishermen's livelihood caused by the oil spill, to determine the fair and transparent relief packages for the affected stakeholders based on an established criteria. I would also like to state that the committee had the responsibility to ensure that the compensation efforts align with the guiding principles of the THA, to facilitate the recovery and restoration of the fishing industry, and to reach out to the subject matter experts from the IOPC, that is, for technical assistance. The committee's process for fulfilling its mandate required developing a strategy that could capture the nuances of the island of Tobago, and it also served to guide for future incidents like oil spills. A central principle involved conducting a damage assessment and a needs analysis, which facilitated the framework for assessing claims through a comparative analysis of data emanating from the oil spill committee meetings. They had dialogues with experts, they consulted with the fisher folk, and TEMA did have relevant documents submitted by the fisher folk. The first step of assessing the fishers' liabilities, they created a claim form, and they did this to understand what the claims that were submitted to the committee. And what they did, they explored the IOPC funds standardized forms. So they created a form in line with what the International Oil Pollution Claims Form looked like, focusing on the category of fishing and mariculture. However, the Tobago Oil Spill Relief Committee, they adjusted certain aspects to capture the nuances of the Tobago context. In these adjustments vis-a-vis the IOPC fund's original claim form was easily realigned just in case individuals decided to submit the claim forms directly to the IOPC. Following the relevant data, the Tobago Oil Spill Relief Committee assessed the submitted claims using an economic model created by the committee. The procedure involved evaluating the claims registered by the fisherfolk, whose applications contain all the relevant documents, which are the valid fisherman's ID, their national ID, their vendor's badge, their food badge, their boat certificate and registration, where applicable, and devising a computation considering 4 different scenarios. That is, compensation either 100%, 75%, 50%, or 40%. Generally, the assessment process comprised of several aspects. First, the committee perused the listing of all the fisherfolk who provided data to the Division of Food Security concerning the operations in the Lambo and Scarborough landing sites. The sample size was subsequently increased to include areas from around Studley Park to Buku in order to provide a more reliable and representative approximation of the fisher's information. The committee then examined each claim and engaged in the following. They calculated the claims for each fisherfolk based on the average daily in terms of their catch, pounds and kilograms, the average distance that are traveled by the fishers, ice, gas, and oil usage per trip, the size of their vessels, the time taken, and the frequency of fishing, and any other pertinent information that the data collectors did collect. Then they looked at the estimate figures from the claimants. After that, they assessed the completed applications filed by the claimants whose landing base was not in Lambo or Scarborough using the above guidelines, which are the average daily catch, the average distance traveled, the ice, oil, and gas used, the size of the vehicle, the vessels, etc. Then they calculated the averages for fishers as an approximation of quantifying the vendor's claims because of the intricate linkages between the fishers and the vendor's operations. They considered all the descriptive reports from the fishermen and vendors that were submitted to TEMA, to the fishing associations, because of the oil spill. The committee also conducted field visits to verify the equipment damaged, confirm whether certain details of the applications were correct, and the IOPC funds personnel accompanied the committee on the site visits from the affected fishermen. The second question asks, what system was put in place to settle these outstanding claims? And I'd like to say that the THA, through the Secretary of Finance, submitted at the time in June last year, the mid-year review requested $153.5 million to cater for the oil spill-related expenditure, and this included the cleanup efforts as well as compensation, any legal costs, any monitoring and assessment costs, public relations and communications, and any consultancy. The total request to the Ministry of Finance at the mid-year was $153.5. The Tobago House of Assembly only received $50 million, and that was used to partially take care of the cleanup costs. So the THA received no additional funds to take care of compensation. As I did indicate, the THA established a Tobago Oil Spill Relief Committee, and I wish to inform this Honorable House that I received a technical report from this committee dated the 31st of October 2024, and I reviewed the recommendations both by the committee as well as the claims manager from the IOPC, which is the international expert. And those recommendations are being considered at this time. I wish to quote some of the recommendations contained in the report. One, that the THA should honor claims from the Lambo and Scarborough area, and that 3 individuals outside of the mandated areas using the IOPC funds formula of 100% reimbursement for valid requests. And in addition to that, they did indicate that the THA should collaborate with the Ministry of Energy and the IOPC personnel to conduct a post-evaluation regarding all the aspects of what is contained in the Tobago Oil Spill Committee's report. I would also like to read on record a letter that was received from the IOPC claims manager, and this is what he said at paragraph 4. And this was addressed to the Honorable Chief Secretary. The subject of the correspondence is the Gulf Stream incident, payment of compensation to fishers. He said, whilst we are aware of and grateful for the work conducted to date by the Tobago Oil Spill Relief Committee, we strongly advise that the THA chooses to compensate those claimants who have submitted claims to the Tobago Oil Spill Relief Committee with little or no evidence in support of these claims and whose claims do not comply with the criteria contained within the 1992 Funds Claim Manual. We cannot guarantee that the THA would be compensated by the IOPC funds if it submitted its claims through the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries subsequently. Upon our preliminary investigations of the claims submitted to the Tobago Oil Spill Relief Committee, and I'd like to say that this committee received 167 claims totaling $47 million. Specifically, this is what the claims manager has noted. Very few claims contain supporting documentation to evidence the claims submitted. Some of the claimants were involved in paid cleanup work during the oil spill cleanup operations. There was no fishing ban in place following the oil spill incident, and many of the claimants received a sum of $1,000 by way of compensation during the early stages of the oil spill. All of these factors, along with others, indicate that many of the claims have no substantiation for figures being discussed by the Tobago Oil Spills Committee as possible compensation payments. Accordingly, we strongly advise that the THA not pay the claims as currently submitted, but to encourage the fishers to submit their claims to the IOPC's focal point office in Trinidad, thereby permitting the claims to be assessed in accordance with the established criteria contained within the internationally agreed 1992 Funds Claim Manual, details of which are available on the IOPC Funds website. If the THA, however, does wish to make claims and payments to the fishers independently of their claims being assessed by the IOPC, we cannot guarantee that the THA will receive their sums back if or once it submits its claims through the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries and ultimately to the IOPC funds, signed by the claims manager of the IOPC. You did also ask for a timeline by which the THA will settle the balance. I'd like to read into the record that we paid no compensation, so there is no balance to be paid. Of the $50 million that we received from the Tobago House of Assembly, the cleanup efforts cost, yes, the 50 from the Ministry of Finance. That $50 million was used to clean up, and the cleanup cost was about $70 million, and at the time, the claims were not assessed by the THA. As I did indicate, the report was only received on the 31st of October. The THA contingencies fund, I must add, was totally utilized to pay the $15 million upfront to clean up the coastline of Tobago. Yes, sir?
I am hearing you, and I'm sure she's hearing it. Please allow her to answer the question. Councillor.
Officer. And further, the allocation from which we pay these extraordinary expenditure to the THA was only allocated $2.1 million. I must say that after the assessment by the Tobago Oil Spill Relief Committee, the committee did assess and came up with about $4.7 million in claims. I am still in conversations with the IOPC Funds Claim Manager as well as the Oil Spill Committee to determine what will be the final decision in terms of compensation to the fishers. I did read into the record what the international experts did recommend, and those will be considered. Thank you very much.
Minority Councillor Petal, you could refer to question 251 because the Secretary for Food.
Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, we wish to recommend that since the member was late, we proceed and that question be dealt with last, because we're not going to go back.
Oh. Okay, well, in that case. So,
252?
251. I will not go with your recommendation. We'll defer back to question 251.
Say that again, please, Deputy.
Minority Councillor, please go back to question 251. The Secretary for Food Security is now here.
Question 251 to the Secretary of Food Production, Natural Resources, the Environment, and Sustainable Development.